Get a job in tech, episode 315. Businesses out there, I'm going to talk about businesses. So, a business out there, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, this is a couple years ago, but you have, so companies with fewer than 10 employees count for roughly 80% or 78%. Companies with fewer than 20 employees account for 89%. Companies with fewer than 100 employees account for 98%. And then companies with fewer than 500 employees account for 99.7%. So roughly, that says it right there, essentially. So if you want to say 100 people, so firms with 100 employees account for 98.1% of the business or the jobs, roughly, out there. And how do you look at those numbers, essentially? So if you take 98.1 minus 100, that's what? 1.9, roughly? Yeah, 1.9%. So 1.9% out there is companies over 500 employees or thereabouts. And so what is this? How do you read this data, or how am I looking at this? If it's me, how am I looking at it? If I'm a company, if I'm looking for a company out there, I'm trying to look to see how many employees do they have. If I can, if I'm like, if it's a big bank, like a bunch of banks, let's say, or a big conglomerate, and it has multiple banks out there who has a bunch of people, then likelihood is they're probably going to get the job. I'm going to apply. My chances are higher than normal, right? Let's say, of getting a job, and I'd apply for like a sysadmin or something like that. Let's say an IT. Now we're talking about tech or IT, right? Now, if I'm a call center, most call centers sometimes they have part-time and sometimes they're full-time, but most call centers are roughly, let's say, 200 employees, and they pay them 15, 18, 20 bucks an hour, start off, depending on the state or wherever they're at. And right there, that's one of those businesses right there, 200 employees or 100 employees at a call center right there. And you're looking at that and you say, well, how do I find these? You go to, when you look for a job, you look at the company, and usually it tells you how many employees it has. So if it has a lot of employees, then what I'm saying, I guess, is you can get into the gaps, essentially. So they know maybe they have a high turnover, maybe they don't. But like if they have 1,000 employees and you can see, oh, they have 1,000 employees, your chances are higher that you're going to get a job or at least an interview in that company if the skill set is similar. However, if it's like 20 employees and looking to fill one in person, they're going to be real picky. Like if the company out there is 20 employees, they're going to be real picky at who they hire, essentially. So you have to check all these boxes. Let's say, for instance, it's an IT shop, let's say, and they have accounts in a city. The city is, let's say, 10,000 people, and this IT shop usually does IT services for the city. It's not the city, but companies in the city. So they might have, let's say they have 30 employees, and that keeps them pretty busy as it is. Now, it's can be very difficult for you to get a job there, essentially, because they already have wrapped up. You have to live in that city. You have to know the people. You have to know those 30 people. Maybe you have 3 or 4 of the people. It has to be the right time of the year for it to happen. Maybe the person is retired. You have to have a specialty skill set that they're looking for, and definitely they're going to expect you to do more. Like, for instance, maybe they're hired a sysadmin and they want you to have network administrative. They want to be a network admin as well, and they want you to do Active Directory. Of course, you can do that, but they want you to do network admin. They want you to be the pseudo firewall person. Maybe the person helps out in firewalls. They want you to do some coding, maybe some Ansible, maybe some programming on that aspect. They want you to be the pseudo storage person, individual. A lot of things they're asking to do because they can get away with it because it's only 30 people. And so it's good when you work there because if you move to another company, you're working there 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. When you go to the next company, you can say, I did all these skill sets. I have all these skill sets. So you're not a master of just one domain or one thing. You're I won't say novice, but you're well versed in many things. And there's a lot of things over time, it becomes a headache for you. It can become a headache for you because all that, the pressure, the knowledge, the learning you have to keep up on, and the 30-person team, 30 company team is not going to send you to the conferences out there. They're not going to pay for your training. They're probably going to give you some Udemy courses or something like that, but they're not going to send you to like a week-long. They can't afford to do that because you're so vital. You're a cog in you're definitely mission critical to their business, essentially, because it's a very small team. So having said that, I'll tell you, like, you're a company out there and you want to hire people, you want to hire individuals. What's the hiring process out like that? Or for you, the person that's looking to hire or looking to get the job, what's the hiring process like? So first step in hiring, like, this is an employer hiring someone. So what are they looking at next? First thing to do is they identify the need. Again, they're going to take the scenario of having a 30-person company and you need to hire another 3 people to cover some extra project or something. So the hiring process begins identifying your need. You need 3 extra people. The need can vary from filling a vacation, like a vacated position, like let's say 2 people retired, and better managing a team's workload and expanding the reach of the organization's tasks. Positions are, in other words, either newly formed or recently vacated. That's the first one, is identifying the hire need. So you've identified it. I need this need. I need 3 people. Next one is devise a recruiting plan. So once the company has identified a hiring need, it's going to begin the recruitment phase. In the case of a newly formed position, this would be a newly formed, but let's say it's a newly formed organization should clearly identify how the role aligns with its goals and business plan. This is talking to the accounting folks and the CFO and kind of figuring out how that whole thing works. And then legal as well, because you need to dot your I's and cross your T's. Organizations should also keep relevant internal teams and employees apprised of a new position at each stage of the hiring process. When you have 30 employees, a lot of people know your business as well. You're such a small company, people are going to know. And that has some good and some not so good to it as well. It's important that all involved in the hiring decision agree to the hiring process, steps, and appropriate communication channels. Recruitment also includes stage strategizing how to publicize the new positions, internally and externally. Criteria for initial candidate screening, while the interview process, what will look like, and who will conduct interviews. That's very important right there. Usually it's the HR person will source whoever. Maybe they go to like a third-party company and they pay them, of course, and then they have these candidates, and then the HR person will, do you want to work for us? Here's what the pay range is, et cetera, et cetera. And then next thing is I'm going to send the resume to the hiring manager, right? That's how it usually goes. The next one is write a job description. This is very key, very key. So this is what you kind of do this in line with the job posting. Once you put it on the internet, you're going to have to do this, or you can ask the third party to help you with it. The hiring staff should start by generalizing a job description that includes prioritizing a list of job requirements, specialty qualifications, desired characteristics, and requisite experience. The job description should also include information regarding salary with benefits and benefits. The next one, advertise position. So you can go on the internet, you can post it on Indeed or Monster or ZipRecruiter, some of those like that, and you pay a fee, of course, if you're a company. And definitely in the local paper, because if it's a small town, like 10,000 people, just put it in the paper. Maybe somebody knows somebody. You can tell your your employees, hey, do you know anybody? That type of thing. You're going to have maybe some job fairs, LinkedIn. You can put it on LinkedIn. That's usually seems like that's the new one now, because you can see more. You can see more of the candidates' personality profile, if you will, on LinkedIn than you can, let's say, on Indeed or in a Dice or in a ZipRecruiter. The next one is recruit the position. Beyond simple job posts, the hiring staff should reach out directly to the desired candidates via LinkedIn, of course, job fairs, and active recruitment will generate applications from potential candidates. The one thing that companies do, they have you fill out it's a job. What is it called? It's a lot of older companies, not older companies, legacy companies, if you will. They have you fill out like a, what is it called? Job description, not job description. It's a, where you fill all your data out, like your name, your address, all your information like that, your college, all that stuff. Application, there you go, job application online, and you don't know who that's going to, and you don't even. And this is before you even get the job, so, or before you even get the interview, so you might want to be hesitant on that type of stuff. The next one is definitely reviewing applicants. So, for instance, there's organizations likely already had a mechanism in place to receive applications via email and an application tracking system, ATS, what they call them. In many cases, the review process begins with a human resources representative who review the applications and eliminate other candidates who do not meet the minimum requirements for the position, or the company more generally. In the other instances, the hiring manager or the hiring team may prefer to review each application. And most likely in a 30-person company, they're going to usually do it where they individually evaluate each application or each, let's say, job. Somebody answers a job on the internet, Dice, whoever, Indeed, they're going to review them one by one. Once a batch of qualified applications are assembled, the hiring staff will review the remaining candidates, identify those they want to interview. The next one is either a phone screen or initial screen, meaning they call you, or you come in. This is from the perspective of the company itself, let's say. This isn't necessarily you, but this is a perspective of a company, so that you understand or you have an idea of what the process is like. And before, or probably like in step one, identifying the need, they're going to set out like a budget, like a 3-month budget or like a 3-month salary. So whatever, let's say you make 100,000 or let's 120,000 a year, let's say. So that's roughly 10 grand a month. And let's see, what is it? So if you make 10 grand a month, and that's your base salary, let's say. So that company is, I think it's 1.6, I think. Is that right? I think that's what it is. So basically it's 16,000. So the company has to hold back $16,000 for 3 months just to be able to hire you, because they have to pay the tax and all that stuff. So like if you make $1, the company has to pay $1.60 to cover your tax. It might be more than that, but that's what I've generally heard. So back to the interviews. So you have one-on-one. Now this is a company. They have a one-on-one interview. They have an in-person interview. Everybody's been in an interview, so I won't go more to that. The next one is the applicant assessment. So you have the interview, then the applicant assessment. This is from the company's perspective. So once the interviews are completed, or during their completion, the company offer assigned applicants one or more standardized tests. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. These exams measure a wide range of variations, including personality traits, problem-solving ability and reasoning, reading comprehension, and emotional intelligence. I forget what the test is called, not the Rorschach test, but it's the Briggs Stratton. I think that's what it is. some Myers-Briggs. That's it. Myers-Briggs test, where they want to test your personality for whatever reason. That's why companies do these things, and that costs money, of course. So the next one is a background check that costs a little bit more. So they'll come out and they'll give you your information. You'll give them your information, and from a company's perspective, this is all involved in what the cost is. So the initial job posting, or the initial what they planned out for in the the 3 months, they factored in this as well. In some cases, it can be $2,000 or $3,000 just to do a background check on an individual, and they may go through, like a company may go through the Twitter or their Facebook, or like X, or some of their social media. They could do that as well. Companies do that a lot of times. Then you have the decision on whether to hire the individual or not, or who's the top choice. Usually they have like their top choice or their non-top choice. First, usually top 5, let's say. Then they do a reference check. So maybe they might have, reference checks, or maybe they call some individual. Would you hire this person? Maybe it's a previous employer. And this takes time, of course, right? So you have an HR person who has to do this as well. So they're probably taking out maybe 5 or 6 hours of time of their week, maybe more, maybe 2 hours of the day. They have 5 employees. They're taking considerable amount of time out of their workload just to do this. That's probably why, like, if you have 30 people in your company and they're looking to hire 3 people, and that HR person is going to spend some time. So you may not hear back from them for a week, because they have, not only do they have to do their normal duties, but they also have to they have to try to bring on 3 new people. So maybe they might have to do reference checks or those type of things for those 3 employees they want to hire. And then next, that comes the job offer. So they got the reference checks and the job offer. So sending job offer, this is your payment. This is your PTO, pay time off. This is your benefits. These are all your hiring criteria, and your stock options. Will you be working remote or not? Your work schedule, things like that. And once you have the job offer, so either the company, you give the new employee the job offer, then they get hired. So then they come in and they fill a bunch of forms, like the W-4, the I-9, the verify, bring in their passport, all that stuff. And you're going to have like a checklist as an HR person of what to do. And of course, you're going to have a handbook. So company handbook, they're going to sign it, things like that. And just to, from a company's perspective, you got to make sure if someone's a handbook, then the employee has to abide by it, things like that. And this process could take a month. If it's 30, not less than a month, maybe. It could take 2 weeks, really, for this to happen. So meanwhile, you're just waiting. But just know that a company out there, if it's 30 employees, this could take like 2 weeks just to get back with you, in this whole process from start to finish. Now, so you've gone through this process in 2 weeks, the onboarding and all that. And they say, can you start in 2 weeks? Okay, so now it's a month. So from the time you started till the time you come in there, it's a month, roughly. And if you're in whatever month, depending on when they start to hire you, it could be a month, it could be 6 weeks before you're starting the role. And the onboarding process, they're usually going to have a form. So from a company's perspective, this is all cost to them. This is all upfront cost. If you're an employee, work out, they had to eat all this cost and this time just to do it. And some of them don't want to do it. Some of them don't want to take the time. That's why they hire the third party, essentially, because they figure, well, I'll just pay the third party $5,000 or whatever it is, and I'll save my staff so much time. Because let's say the HR person makes $25 an hour, and let's say it's $6,000, $3,000 for the process and or 5,000, 10,000, whatever for their costs, and then they can just get a third party to do it. And then if the person doesn't work out, well, okay, cut our losses and just go to somebody else. So they had to pay $5,000, but they don't have to restart the process over. They can just rinse and repeat with that same third party company and do it all over again and then save a lot of money. Yeah. So start to finish, 6 weeks, like I said. And if you're a company out there and you're hiring people and you have you have a huge need to hire people, and you're one of the top 20% or the top percent, you have more than 500 employees in your company, good for you. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one.